Good evening and welcome to the Tenebrae service. I've always done this service where we've moved into complete darkness, but as I've prepared for this, I've been thinking about this window quite a bit, and I believe that at the time of the spring equinox, the sun is just perfectly centered in the window. And so it is almost perfectly centered in the window tonight, and it'll be going down as the service goes. And so we'll be part of the sunset. It'll be very I'm glad it's not cloudy tonight. It'll be a very powerful part of our experience. So we won't be in complete darkness, but we will experience the sun going down in a very particular way. In the 4th century, a solemn observance of the Lord's Supper known as Tenebrae was celebrated. The service involved the lighting and extinguishing of candles as a reminder of the darkness that covered the earth after the passion and crucifixion of Jesus. This service is a version of the ancient office of Tenebrae, which is a Latin word meaning darkness. I've written this with characters from all 4 of the Gospels, reflecting on their part of the events of Jesus' last hours. Let's meet our storytellers.
I am Salome. With other women, I traveled with Jesus. I'm the one who made the bread for the last meal.
I am James. My brother and I, along with Peter, used to be fishermen until we joined Jesus's inner groups of disciples. We had no idea what that would really mean.
I am John, James' brother. You know us as the sons of Zebedee. We always worked together, even after Jesus came and turned our world upside down.
I am Judas. Jesus was not who I thought he was. If only he would have listened to me.
My name is Peter. I have followed Jesus all this time. I said I would never turn away from him.
I'm a member of the Jewish Council. Jesus was a danger to our way of life. He didn't understand the trouble he was causing for our tentative relationship with Rome.
I am the servant girl who stopped by the courtyard to warm myself early in the morning, wanting to pick up some gossip.
I am Pilate, Roman governor of Judea. I was assigned to this stinking backwater of the Roman Empire. My palace is in Tiberias, a more temperate city. But I had to come to Jerusalem for the Passover because the Jews were flooding the city and ready for trouble.
I'm Barabbas. My name means son of the Father. I could have been anyone. I wanted to be someone.
I am Simon of Cyrene. You know what they say about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes you aren't sure, though, if it was meant to be or not.
I'm Mary, mother of James and Joseph. Like Mary Magdalene and Salome, I traveled with Jesus, provided for his meals, and made sure he looked after himself. I tried to, anyway.
I am Mary Magdalene. There are rumors about me, but this is the truth. Jesus saved me, and I have loved and followed him ever since.
You know me as Joseph of Arimathea. I am a Jewish man of means, and I quietly followed Jesus. He tugged at my heart in a very powerful way.
I and several other women traveled with Jesus from Galilee. I would have followed him anywhere, but I told him I was worried about going to Jerusalem, especially during Passover. He just looked at me tenderly and said it was where we needed to be. So I went on the journey. I helped prepare the meal, the Passover meal we shared together. I was worried, but I didn't know it would be our last meal together.
If I had known it was the end, I would have stayed awake, really. But we all thought it was just another night that Jesus was out praying while we were so exhausted, all we could do was fall asleep. We should have known something was different. He came back 3 times. 3 times. And we were asleep each time.
Looking back, we wondered how we had been caught off guard like that. One minute we were sleeping, the next the garden was full of soldiers and Judas. We wondered how Jesus didn't know what was coming. We wondered why he didn't lead us all out the other way. We'd seen him do it before. But he faced his accuser and the soldiers with a sad grace that still haunts me.
At first, I believed Jesus, believed his teachings would change the world. I believed his way of love and justice would make a difference. But his way was too slow. He wasn't going to change fast enough. We didn't have the time. I didn't have the time. And he wouldn't listen. So I took matters into my own hands. I sold him out for 30 pieces of silver. Of course, I didn't really know what it would feel like, how he would look at me when I led the soldiers to him and greeted him with that kiss.
I was a fisherman, the son of a fisherman, married to a fisherman's daughter, and then Jesus came and showed me how large life could really be. I swear, I would have done anything for him. I would have stormed the gates of hell for him. But when he was arrested, my world was upended again. I found myself saying, no, that's not me. No, I don't know him. No, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I lost him. And my no rang in the darkness around me.
We in the Jewish Council have been watching Jesus for some time. How did he think he was going to get away with all this rabble-rousing? Healing on the Sabbath, teaching against the law, turning over the tables in the temple. We couldn't have it. We had a very delicate relationship with the Romans. And a force like Jesus would have set that balance. He had to be dealt with. We had no choice.
I like to stop by the courtyard before I started my work day at the highest priest's house. It was a great place to pick up some gossip, which I could share with the other servants as the day went on. That morning, while it was still dark, many people were gathered around. The man Jesus was being questioned inside. I had seen him earlier that week. Then I recognized one man who was hanging around as one of his friends. I said, "Hey, are you his friend? Aren't you?" He said no. Then he said no again. Then one of the other folks said, "But you sound Galilean." And he said no again. It was almost dawn, and the cock crowed just at that moment. The look on his face when he'd heard that sound, it was like his heart was being broken. I got more gossip than I bargained for that day.
The Jews brought him to me just after dawn. You'd think they'd wait until after breakfast, but they'd been at it all night. He wasn't that impressive, bloody, beaten, but they said he was a threat to Rome. So I asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And all he said was, "You say so." He did not speak again. Well, it was outrageous. He had the audacity to refuse to answer my questions. So I made it clear who was really in charge.
The Romans had ruined my life in so many ways. They needed to be overthrown, and I fought against their rule. I was arrested during the Passover, and I was held to be crucified. Then Pilate asked the crowd who he should spare, me or this Jesus? And the crowd chose me. I was freed. But when I realized what really happened that day, I discovered I was not free at all. So I say the Romans have ruined me in more ways than one.
The Jews are required to go to Jerusalem for Passover if they are at all able. So I went. I wanted to just do my duty and return home, away from the crowded streets and the noise. But I was there on the street the day they brought Jesus out of town, carrying his cross. He was so weak from his beatings, he could hardly stand. And so the soldiers made me do it. Made me carry this instrument of torture for this man with the most piercing eyes I had ever seen.
Nothing was the same after Jesus. He taught us that we had a place at the table, not just to cook the food and set the table, but to be at the table, eating together, talking, learning, laughing, sharing. He opened our eyes to what was possible, what we could be, how God was with us. We had seen so much. So we had to watch. We had to see what happened to him on that hill. We didn't want him to bear it alone.
I understood why the men were scared. The Romans didn't suspect us women of being followers, much less leaders with Jesus. So we were able to stay within sight of that awful hill. Even if it had meant my death, I would have been there. And we saw. We were the witnesses, and we would continue to be the witnesses of all that humans can do, of all that we can bear. We kept watch, and we still watch.
Usually, the crucified bodies are left on the cross for a while, as if that could add to the cruelty. Yet, I was able to spare Jesus that. I was a respected member of the council, quietly following him. I wasn't able to change his fate in all the debate the night before, but I was able to ask to take his body. So just before sundown, when it would have been too late, I was able to take his body into a new tomb. Since the sun was setting, we rolled the stone across the opening, left him there.